The granite face of El Capitan, or any monolithic slab approaching 3,000 vertical feet, is not merely a geographic feature. It is an unforgiving statement on the limits of human physics and endurance. It is a monument carved by incomprehensible geological time, scaled only by human tenacity, operating within the strict confines of ropes, anchors, and specialized rubber engineered for maximal friction. Yet, on a crisp autumn morning, witnessed by several observers who could only rub the sleep from their eyes and question the sobriety of their own vision, a man performed an act of ascension that transcended the known rules of mountaineering, gravity, and anatomy. This was not merely a fast climb. This was an impossibility realized in plain sight, a mystery enshrined in solid rock. The central, unnerving detail that anchors the entire enigma, the crux of the baffling event that gave rise to the chilling apparition. The Rockman is not the speed, though that was supernatural in its own right, nor the vertical distance, which was staggering, but the profound, terrifying lack of gear. This individual, whose identity remains a footnote in the grand scheme of the puzzle, achieved a free solo ascent of a Class 6 vehicle. Wow, a route that devours days and requires hundreds of pounds of hardware for the world. Elite climbers, without shoes, without chalk, without even the slenderest thread of safety equipment tethering him to the mortal plane. He was, to put it starkly, naked against the rock, his bare feet serving as the sole interface between life and the catastrophic void yawning thousands of feet below. The setting was one of America's most revered and feared natural cathedrals. The light was just beginning to cut the morning fog, casting long, sharp shadows that made the intricate fissures and dihedros of the wall look impossibly small, deceptively treacherous. Seasoned climbers, already established in their portalages high above the valley floor, reported seeing a figure moving with a fluid, almost liquid grace. The movements defied the choppy, deliberate rhythm of technical free soloing, the kind practiced by masters who cling to microholds with balletic precision. Instead, this figure moved with a constant, upward momentum, utilizing the minuscule friction points in a way that suggested the granite itself was porous or somehow sticky underfoot. The immediate conflict exploded within the small community of witnesses, professional mountaineers, men and women who dedicated their lives to understanding the precise geometry of risk versus reward. Initially dismissed the reports as hallucinations induced by altitude or lack of sleep, but the reports soon converged, emanating from multiple independent sources. A ranger on patrol below, a tourist with a telephoto lens who managed to capture fleeting, blurred images, and the aforementioned climbing teams already positioned high on the wall, all confirmed the same unbelievable truth. The figure was moving at an average vertical speed that rivaled that of an elevator, achieving nearly 3,000 feet of gain in under 2 hours. To contextualize this breathtaking speed, standard free solo ascents of routes this scale are often measured in 4 to 6 hours, and those climbers rely entirely on the frictional superiority of specialized footwear and the tensile strength of their fingertips. The Rockman had rendered specialized engineering irrelevant. This single fact, the insane speed coupled with the absence of gear, created a profound open loop that has tormented investigators, physicists, and physiologists ever since. How did the human body generate that kind of sustained power and precision? More critically, how did his feet survive the climb? The sheer caloric expenditure is one problem. The mechanical stress on soft tissue is another entirely. Every push, every upward movement concentrated the entire weight of his body onto a small, incredibly abrasive surface area. This should not result in an exhilarating ascent. It should result in a descent marked by shredded flesh, deep abrasions, and pulverized toes. The granite face of El Capitan, or any monolithic slab approaching 3,000 vertical feet, is not merely a geographic feature. It is an unforgiving statement on the limits of human physics and endurance. It is a monument carved by incomprehensible geological time, scaled only by human tenacity, operating within the strict confines of ropes, anchors, and specialized rubber engineered for maximal friction. Yet, on a crisp autumn morning, witnessed by several observers who could only rub the sleep from their eyes and question the sobriety of their own vision, a man performed an act of ascension. Detailed forensic development of the case only deepened the mystery. When the Rockman was eventually located on the summit plateau, he was reportedly calm, breathing normally, and exhibited no outward signs of extreme exertion or distress. He was cooperative, though exceptionally reserved, offering vague, poetic explanations for his actions that did nothing to satisfy the hard science demands of the park authorities. The most critical piece of evidence came from the immediate medical examination conducted by Dr. Eleanor Vance, a physician who specialized in sports, physiology, and extreme environment survival. Her findings were, quite simply, medically impossible. Dr. Vance's report, which later became the most contested document in the case file, stated unequivocally that the Rockman's feet, there were no fresh blisters, no open wounds, and shockingly, no signs of the micro tears or extreme dermal trauma that 3,000 feet of high-friction granite abrasion should have inflicted. The soles of his feet were described as being preternaturally smooth, almost polished, as if the rock face had somehow buffed the skin instead of tearing it away. The pressure points, particularly the balls of his feet and the toes, showed a slight, temporary reddening, indicative only of high pressure, but the integrity of the skin was completely intact. It was as if the frictional coefficient between his skin and the rock had been somehow managed, perfectly modulated to allow grip without destruction. This physiological anomaly served as a pattern interrupt for investigators. The focus immediately shifted from asterisk how asterisk he climbed to asterisk what asterisk he was. Was this some kind of mutation, a trick of the light and timing that obscured the use of transparent, sophisticated technology? The experts vehemently rejected the notion of hidden technology, noting the consistent visibility and the close range of several witnesses. The sheer geometric reality of the rock face dictates that without the angular advantage offered by climbing shoes, which provide stiff edges for perch, the foot would simply slip off the tiny, outward sloping flakes of granite. The professional climbing community's reaction was immediate and absolute denial. They insisted the feat violated every established principle of friction, mechanics, and physics. One renowned expert, who had himself spent decades mastering the wall, testified that attempting that route barefoot would be tantamount to trying to climb a vertical pane of glass, wearing only socks dipped in butter. The very idea was ludicrous. Yet here was the documented proof of the man on the summit, healthy and unharmed. This contradiction brought the investigators back to the second central hook of the mystery. If the speed and lack of gear were unbelievable on the ascent, the possibility of the descent was terrifying. The Rockman had not been seen climbing down. He had been found on the top. This raised a chilling immediate question that re-engaged the profound curiosity of the public. If he somehow possesses the ability to ascend this way, does he also possess an equally anomalous method of travel that allowed him to vanish from the face of the earth afterward? Because just as quickly as he appeared, establishing an impossible benchmark of human endurance, the Rockman disappeared. He left the ranger station after providing his brief, enigmatic statement, simply walking away from the controlled environment and melting back into the surrounding wilderness. Seemingly uninterested in the fame, scrutiny, or scientific validation his feat guaranteed, the grand revelation, in this case, the true climax, is the utter and persistent lack of a conventional answer. The documentation confirming his presence at the top, the medical records confirming the intact condition of his feet, and the unanimous witness testimony regarding the impossible speed, all stand in direct, violent opposition to the laws of classical physics and human biology. The simplest explanation that he was carried there by helicopter was dismissed by air traffic control logs and immediate ground surveillance. The only remaining explanation requires acknowledging an entirely unknown facet of human potential, perhaps a mastery of localized, intentional energy manipulation, or a meditative state so profound it allowed him to find purchase where others found only slick, sheer rock. Whatever the mechanism, the Rockman exposed the edges of our known universe, demonstrating that the barriers we erect, the limits of gravity, friction, and pain are perhaps merely suggestions, awaiting the person with the necessary, mysterious, intrinsic key. The case of the Rockman remains a staggering anomaly, a documented defiance of the material world. It leaves us with the unsettling conclusion that some questions, especially those pertaining to the extremes of human potential, are not meant to be answered, but simply observed in silence. The challenge now is to consider the aftermath. What did the world do with a climb that proved human limitations were voluntary? What secrets did the Rockman take with him into the wilderness? And how do we begin to parse the strange, cryptic statements he left behind about the energy of the earth beneath the skin? That is where the deep dive into the Rockman's methodology must begin.